is a panel discussion, and it is all about reimagining digital spaces with the youth. So that is shifting from access to inclusion and from users to actually active partners. As Steve Jobs once said, innovation is the ability to see change as an opportunity and not a threat. So who better to embody this than the young people who are shaping our digital future? So in this session, we'll explore how digital spaces can move beyond mere access to become platforms for inclusion, participation, and leadership. It's about empowering young people to not just use technology, but to shape and innovate within it. So let's welcome our panelists for this dynamic session. I'm going to start by calling Ms. Arzoo Garg, Youth Engagement Officer at YuWaah at UNICEF, a passionate advocate for youth empowerment, and she will be the one who will be moderating the session. Hi, Arzoo. Welcome to the stage. Next, I'd like to call Maanvi, campaigns lead at YuWaah, who combines creativity and strategy to drive impactful youth campaigns. Can we please have Maanvi on the stage? Welcome. Next, may I please call Maitreyee from YuWaah's Young People Action Team, whose work focuses on understanding how youth influence culture and trends. Let's call on Maitreyee. Welcome, Maitreyee. Next, may I please call Mr. Jayanth Nadheri from YuWaah's Young People Action Team, who brings his expertise as a teacher and an EdTech researcher to the table. Welcome to the panel. Call Mr. Dhruv Yadav, VP of Business at InfoEdge, a mentor and a strategist working with Niti Aayog to solve for Bharat's youth. Welcome, Mr. Yadav. And lastly, but not the least, okay? Lastly but not the least, may I please call Mr. Niket Raut, Enterprise Architect at Capgemini, whose work focuses on designing inclusive digital experiences. I love that one. Yes, a round of applause would be nice. It's the final session of the day. Don't put your energies down. Last one. Come on, we can do this. So let's dive into this session that's dynamic, vibrant, young, and unpredictable, just as the youth represents it. Ms. Vasudevan, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining in for the session and also staying in till this late for this very youthful and very different conversation which we are going to have from rest of the day. I'm Arzoo Garg, and I work as Youth Engagement Officer at YuWaah UNICEF. YuWaah is basically a public-private youth partnerships platform where we try to work with young people and try to also enhance their journey from learning to earning by equipping them with various tools, various technologies, creating technologies, and also enhancing the ecosystem by strengthening the ecosystem by indulging with different stakeholders, for example, government stakeholders, private stakeholders, CSOs, as well as young people, because we feel that young people, no innovation, no technology can be driven without young people. So I welcome you again to this discussion. And as we know, India is one of the largest residing countries in the world for young people. Almost 1/5 of youth population of the world, they reside in India. And we are also sitting at unprecedented opportunities where we can harness the energies of young people, their passions, and their creativities to drive socio and economic changes. But we also see that young people also need a lot of support from our end. Our end, by our end, I mean as development professionals, as professionals who are working in various organizations which are working to serve youth-led solutions. So one such place where young people might need our support and where they can bring in various changes is around digital space. And today, in today's conversation also, we are going to discuss about how young people can drive digital changes. As the title of this discussion also suggests, reimagining digital places with young people. It's not for young people. We are trying to reimagine the digital world with young people. Also, we are trying to ensure and move the narrative just from seeing young people as end users to see them as to see them as active change makers, and to also see them ensure their inclusion within the digital spaces. That's one thing. Today's younger population, especially our Gen Alpha and Gen Zs, they are sitting at fingertip of technology. The technology, they have been using it. I think a lot of young people, they have been born by using technology. Now schools, post-COVID, schools have also started using technology, and since throughout the day also we had certain discussions around this. Young people also use technology to communicate with each other, to network with each other, to socialize with each other, also for their entertainment. They use technology for their healthcare services, also to access education opportunities, employment opportunities, so on and so forth. So digital world has opened a lot of spaces for young people and a lot of areas where through which they can access different services. So to make sure that these young people are not just the end users or the consumers of these services, what can we do? What can be done to bring them as co-creators of this technology, and to bring them as solution makers, solution providers, and decision makers to bring a change the way in which we are reimagining our digital world. That's what we are going to do in today's discussion. This discussion is very important, and it's also urgent because right now we are also sitting in the era of AI-led solutions. There are AI-led solutions across various platforms which are impacting directly or indirectly young people. And how do we want to see our future for young people? Do we just want to see them as passive users who are sitting behind their screens, or do we also want their lived experiences, their expertise to come to be shared by our ecosystem? So that's what we are going to discuss in today's panel. And we have an excellent lineup of the panelists today. I would like to add that today is a very youthful panel which we have in this discussion. Without further ado, I would like to start this discussion with our panelists, and I hope everyone finds it engaging. So my first question is to Maitreyee. Maitreyee, as a young person, and since you are saying that young people are not just the consumers of the content, but they're also creating it. So how do you think youth voices have influenced social media? They have also shaped digital platforms, and what makes their contribution unique and impactful?
Hi, yeah. So actually on the way here, because we were discussing digital platforms, I decided to do something which I usually dread, and I checked my screen time, and it was an embarrassingly high amount of 6 hours. And I found a report that said that most young people at least spend 4 to 6 hours on their phone every day. So I think this goes to show that even if we're not consuming just social media, we end up using our phones a lot, and that subconsciously affects how we look at the world and how we engage with the world. So a big part of social media and digital media for young people is that they find their identity through it. So it's not just the pictures you post, but everything you interact with, the people you follow, the issues you want to advocate for, the posts you maybe comment on, they all make up for your digital footprint or your identity. And it's this identity which is then granting a lot of young people access to very specific micro communities on social media. So earlier we had bigger communities, but now for every niche topic, you'll find your own group of people with whom you would maybe have discussions, you could have debates, and it's within those communities that young people are also letting others know what they want from companies, or what help they need, or what support they need. And it's through these communities also that engagement has changed so much. So how we seek out information is very different. For example, if I have to change my resume, or if I need to prepare for an interview, I'm much more likely to maybe look up a video on social media, or see what other young people have gone through their Reddit experiences, or see if any young people have maybe websites or LinkedIn influencers who've spoken about their personal journey, as opposed to maybe bigger companies who also give the same tips. Because a part of that is also, it's very intimidating. When you have a creator who's also a young person and you can just watch them and their language is easier and it's easier to relate to them, you also feel much more at ease. And if we even take the creator economy into consideration, I think in the past year we've seen that influencers, micro-influencers, any sort of creator, they found ways to leverage their platforms to sell consumer products. Consumer tech has has changed completely. Because a lot of young people would rather buy what the creators they follow are buying, as opposed to maybe traditional advertising. And the same thing goes for movies and TV shows as well. We would much rather watch stories about the underdog, or stories that we find relatable. So if we have creators from marginalized communities who are talking about their experience, it's much more likely to make an impact than maybe other big companies who might talk about the same issues. It's easier for them to root for the underdog, and that's why I think they want more young people to create. And I think young people are, they don't take it as seriously as well. They are willing to create more because it's low stakes, but the returns are extremely high. And I think, based on your question, I think what makes it extremely unique is because, as you said, we've been born into this social media, digital media age. So for us, a lot of this is very intuitive. We know when a trend might go out of, it's no longer trendy. We know when to pivot from a trend, when to turn a trend on its own head to make something else of it. And I think a lot of times when brands and companies try to do it from the outside, it ends up looking more tokenistic. And I think young people hate that even more. So having a young person's voice included in those campaigns maybe makes the entire process a lot more smoother and more impactful.
Thank you so much, Maitreyee, for sharing those valuable insights. And also, the thing which stuck with me was about the relatability factor, that how to make sure that including young people also makes our content, makes our tools, makes our platforms also very much relatable. So now it leads to my second question to Jayanth. So Jayanth, according to you, how can digital platforms be adopted to ensure inclusive and representation of young people from diverse settings, especially from marginalized backgrounds? And how do you think, what role young people and these platforms can play in not just amplifying, but shaping their realities?
Hi, everyone. So I think there is no, there are multiple answers to this, and most of them will be interrelated. My straightforward answers will be like to make the platforms more contextual and more adaptive. See, majority of the platforms which we have now are actually built for second or third generation from the urban area who has more exposure to technology. And even if you see the accessibility features in these platforms, they are not they're actually provided as an additional service or an additional feature. For example, imagine you are applying for an exam and you are from a youth from a background, rural background, where there is very low data connectivity. And see, applying an exam is not an easy process. It's actually cumbersome if you belong to this context. Exams may be happening in multiple languages, but if you see the application of an exam, it will probably be in English. And if you are not having a proficiency in English, you will need to depend on another person for you to fill up the form. And also, if you see the most of them may be using mobile phones, and all these platforms or the application forms are not actually mobile friendly, and also may consume a higher bandwidth of data, which makes even the application process a little cumbersome. And see, also, I feel actually if you are applying for an exam, it should be as easy as filling a Google form with, and you are filling in your own language. And also, if you see, if you want to be access a platform like LinkedIn for searching jobs, or like Instagram for you to raise your voices in Instagram and to share opinions. But if you go to the login page of LinkedIn or Instagram, it's actually built in English, and there is no option for you to change the language. And if you wish you need to access the accessibility features, you actually first need to sign up, then go to the settings, and then select the accessibility features, which actually is not serving the purpose. So I believe we have the devices, we have the platform, but it's not built for everyone. So the right thing has to start from the design. And also, if we talk about contextuality, see, there are multiple platforms for skill development. You have Coursera, you have Udemy, and many other initiatives by different organizations and government. But most people prefer YouTube, because YouTube has this feature of anyone can be a producer, anyone can be a creator, and it allows you the content in multiple languages. And the people should feel that contextuality, or they should be able to learn in their language for them to adopt the technology. So there were a few studies where we see that it's actually that ease of access and ease of usefulness which will lead to more adoption of technology. So I think all these things matter. And when we say we have access or accessibility features included, it's actually coming as an option. So it shouldn't be an option. It's like our platform is inclusive, but it's actually hidden somewhere. It's not accessible itself, is not serving the purpose. So, and finally, the most important thing is, if you think about building a context-based platform, like for example, we have at YuWaah UNICEF, we have Fundu, which is actually a chat-based platform where you can access through WhatsApp. So it makes the process easy. So you don't need much login process, or something like passport to earning program of us, where we are actually providing skill development programs for adults and girls from the rural areas, and the courses we provide actually are more like empowering them, making them job ready. For example, like digital literacy courses and financial literacy courses. So we need more context built into the courses, into the platforms. So only then we can ensure that everybody is included in the platform. It's made for everyone. And finally, I also should add, it's also about algorithms. We need algorithms to support us. The content which may be created for a certain locality may not be having millions of views, but it may be rich in content, might be need a particular audience, but the algorithm makes it hidden. And and also there are certain platforms whose algorithm actually hide people from certain communities. So all these things has to be addressed. Inclusion also comes along with transparency. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Jayanth, and excellent points for highlighting accessibility, also the language barriers which young people, especially from rural or remote communities, they might face while accessing different platforms and also social media platforms as well. So far, Jayanth and Maitreyee have spoken about how can we include young people across various digital platforms, and also how can we include young people to create and co-create content with them. So this brings me to my next question to Maanvi. And Maanvi, my question is, how does Yuvaa engage with young people beyond assigning them the role of passive users? And as a practitioner, what value addition have you seen which young people have been able to bring as co-creators across Yuvaah's platforms?
Hi everyone, thank you so much firstly for having me. This entire day has been extremely insightful. Just a little bit of context to those who don't know what my organization does. I'm from Yuvaa. We're a media organization based in Mumbai with a very simple almost mission, which is that we want to be where young people are. So we are very particular about talking to young people, essentially Gen Z, on issues that matter to them, like mental health, like sexual and reproductive health, queer rights, and do it in a way or in a language that they understand and is accessible to them. And that can be obviously accessibility of language, but also in a way where you don't want to come across as too preachy, right? So one of the ways, and the ways that we do it is we have content. You can see the things that we do in terms of original IPs that we produce on YouTube and Instagram. We also do social impact partnerships with not-for-profits specifically catered towards Gen Z. And we also do research. Now, there are a couple of things about Gen Z that I have learned through my time at YuWaah, and there are three major things. One is like Maitreyee mentioned, is that they're very much digital natives. So throughout the day, while everybody was talking about incorporating digital tools in classrooms, I had an understanding that this is a generation that knows how to use digital native. So as far as content creation is concerned, they have a much better idea than we as an organization or someone who's not from there. So when we're trying to talk to young people, the idea very much is that we're looking to them for clues on how to do content creation. The second thing about Gen Z is that they have extremely short attention spans, which as anyone who has scrolled for maybe half an hour or more on Instagram Reels will happily tell you. Now the thing is, when you're looking at 15-second or 30-second attention spans, that does not automatically equate to the fact that you can't do a lot of information-rich content, right? Because we have in our work managed to talk about some serious important issues through Instagram Reels. Like one of our campaigns that we did at YuWaah was with Breakthrough India, where we collaborated with them to talk about bystander intervention, specifically in cases of gender-based violence. Now that's very much something that you would think you can't talk about in 30 seconds, but we took those ideas and then creatively worked with young people within our office as well as content creators on Instagram to create engaging 30-second reels that used humor, that used accessibility to talk about why bystander intervention is important. So the second, attention span, is very important for you to keep in mind, but definitely not a barrier to whatever you want to talk about. And the third thing, which again, I think anyone who has ever spoken to someone young will happily tell you, is that they're very opinionated. So there is no question of me going to a younger person and telling them anything. The co-creation bit which you asked is automatically inbuilt in the way that you have to talk to. If you want to talk to young people, you have to ensure that it's a participative process. Like Maitreyee so very rightly pointed out, it doesn't make sense for us, even as far as skills are concerned, to go to a young person and say, these are the degrees that you need. No, they're not going to listen to you. You have to ensure that you're talking to them in a way that doesn't talk down to them, but is also very much speaking to them. So in our experience of course, working with young people, we're also, I mean, a lot of the people that work in our company are very young. I'm, in fact, the oldest, or almost the second oldest person that works in my company. I have a lot of 19, 20-year-olds who work with me. The idea always is that we want to speak to young people in a language that they understand, which means that constantly we are speaking to them through our extensive college network. We are there in about 100+ colleges. We are talking to them about issues that matter to them. We are asking them if there's something that they want to come on board with. And so much of the work that we have done has this idea of co-creation.
Thanks, Maanvi, for highlighting those 3 points of including young people's ideas, also ensuring that, knowing that they have a very less attention span these days, and also ensuring that they are opinionated people. So what we can do to ensure that we are not telling them things, but we are working with them. Yeah, so I think my take from your discussion is co-creation with young people, and always do that. This brings me to my next question to Niket. So far we have spoken to the young people and also to Maanvi from YuWaah about discussing how content should be co-created with young people. Now, Niket, I wanted to ask you how, as your extensive experiences of working with young professionals and also mentoring them, how does Capgemini view the role of young people in shaping digital solutions? And can you also share where are the cases or use cases where some of the insights of young people have been used to co-develop any of the platforms at Capgemini? So over to you.
Uh, you know, one of the best thing I love, I appreciate, and I respect about this young generation is that they don't take things lying down. You tell them something, they will question you. They will ask you. You tell them. It's not like our generation when someone senior comes and tells us, okay, do this, and they will say, we will to do that. These guys will question, "Kyun? Why?" That question will be there. And second thing, we call them this passive people who go through technological reels and so on. My observation, it's actually other way around. When they are scrolling through, they are absorbing lot of information, they are absorbing lot of content, and they are very well connected. Okay. The moment up kisi young professional, we don't at Capgemini, we do not call them freshers anymore. They are young professionals, and you tell them about any topic, and within next 5 minutes, you will realize that that guy has already asked ChatGPT about basics of that topic. You give them some time, within say hour or so, you would find that he has gone through some brief tutorials. He has gone through, looked at, already hunted down few YouTube videos to learn about that topic and all those things, and they are ready. And then you go and tell them, no, do this thing just like that I told you. No. It's not going to work that way, and you have to respect respect them. Don't talk them down. If you do that, the rebel comes out. And that's why you'll find a lot of attrition also happens with young professionals, because they like to work on their own terms and do not hesitate to talk back to you. And I'm not telling this only from perspective of dealing with this young professional day in, day out, but I also had some privileges of being member of board of studies for some reputed deemed universities in Mumbai. On topic of why students do not attend lectures regularly, I have seen these students questioning their professors in front of principal and all of us, that why should I attend your lecture? I understand I come to practicals to get some hands-on, but in lecture, what do you tell me which I already don't get to know from Udemy or Khan Academy or YouTube or all other channels or knowledge that I'm access to? If I'm not getting that value, why should I travel all the way to college and attend a lecture sitting in there? What is the value add to me? I have seen them asking these questions, right? So my way of working with these people, that you respect them, and whenever you are talking them, like we used to do in earlier days, I want to develop this piece of code or software, then I give you logic and you write this. That doesn't work anymore. You have to give them the overview, you give them the vision. Okay, this is what we want to achieve. We are writing this program, but overall this is the purpose, this is what will happen, this is how it will benefit our client or our society. You give them context, and suddenly we'll find that the same person who were some time ago was reluctant, we start coming out with ideas. Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do, And I'm telling that for all the new technology explorations, etc., that we do, our teams are, I would say, more than 70% comprised of these young professionals who do the work as good as any other, say, I would say 7 to 8 years experienced professional, but who is from a little bit previous generation. So to have some conclusive thought, to respect them, and respecting them, and then telling them what needs to be done at a higher level, giving them vision and understanding their world, their culture, their I think Maanvi was telling, right, that they are very much opinionated. Yes, they are. And you have to go along with that flow, and that's you make work for them. And that's how we, I would say, live with this young professional day in, day out, and still achieve a lot of good things. Yeah.
No, just wanted to add to that, saying completely agree. And I also feel that a lot of the times when we have discussions like this and otherwise, the question invariably is, what does Gen Z want? What do young people want? But the assumption always in that question is that it's almost like there are different species of people, right? So obviously we are always like, what do they want? They think very differently. What is it? What are the trends, etc. But in my experience of working, and as Maitreyee and Jayanth have also so nicely elucidated, half of the battle in many ways is solved if you understand the context in which this particular generation has or exists, right? It is a generation that is digitally native. They grew up with the computers. They have an option of going to YouTube and accessing a Khan Academy tutorial if they feel that the education and the value that they're getting in the classroom is not enough. So if you understand the context, then you automatically understand that everything that a Gen Z is then consuming needs to be of a certain quality for them to express a certain loyalty towards it, which is why they have opinions, which is why they feel that if something is not according to the way that they think the world should be, they will very happily tell you that, right? As far as this work-life balance is concerned, as far as queer rights is concerned, because again, they're growing up in an environment that is so informationally rich that they don't, it's almost like a thing where if you feel that there is a conversation about quiet quitting or work-life balance or mental health happening in the US, why can't it happen in my workplace? Why can't I go to my boss and say, I need a mental health leave or I need a menstrual leave? Both of policies, by the way, we have in UNICEF after we realized a lot of young people came and said that actually, menstrual leave should be a thing. And we said, yeah, of course, it should be. So I just wanted to quickly add
one
that.
more point, is that once you convince the generation, these people, they would be giving you 100%. That you can be sure about. Then they won't bother about, staying late, working, weekend and all. Even if you don't tell them, don't do it. They would still be doing it. Not because they have been asked to do it. That's because they are convinced that this is something need to be done and I want to do it. Then you will have their 100% from them. That's again a good part.
So thank you, Niket and Maanvi, for highlighting these important aspects. We often forget that young people are also the young professionals who are working behind these platforms in some ways, or who are co-creating these solutions with us. And thank you for bringing in that how these workplaces who are working on technology or on serving youth serving digital tools, they are also trying to adapt to differential needs of young people, and also trying to see and also relate to the changing realities of young people, which we all are facing as of now. Also, thank you for highlighting how both the organizations, Capgemini and YuWaah, are also trying to incorporate young people and their realities as youth professionals within their work stream as well. So far, what we have done is we have seen how young people are shaping our content. They are also trying to make a change, and their realities are also very different, which also tries to channelize or maneuver how different digital platforms should work. Young people also reach out to technology or use digital platforms for seeking education, skilling, and employment-related opportunities. And we are seeing that with AI, with the boom of AI, all these opportunities and the landscape around this is also changing these days. So my next question is to Dhruv. As digital technology is rapidly evolving and AI is also emerging, how can jobs and skilling-based platforms support and equip young people, especially from marginalized settings, to navigate, shape, and respond to these landscapes?
Thanks, Arzoo. I think I started the discussion already in a happy note because Arzoo, clubbed us together in a youthful platform. So it's been a while since that has been happening. So very happy all together that ways. AI is a mega trend. It is happening. In the next few years, the kind of functionalities it will evolve will be immense. So there is no point going against it, or also there is no point lying idle there. So that ways, an InfoEdge. So just for a context setting, InfoEdge is one of the largest players in the recruitment space. Naukri.com, Gulf, IM Jobs, everything in the space of recruitment is where InfoEdge is present in the past 30 odd years. So they were the pioneers from moving the offline classifieds to an online classified system. So I think we've been working with data since our company got incepted. So how this entire trend is going to evolve over the next few years, there's going to be so many more functionalities. I mean, AI-driven career pathway. Mock interviews can be driven. The users will be farther toward the value delivery. They will not be spending a lot of their time, creating a CV. A CV will obviously automatically will be created by an AI system. They will be making it maybe an ATS-friendly CV, or they'll be personalizing it for a specific job. What I wanted to focus around was that there are so many functionalities that obviously AI will evolve, but the softer aspects of it. Now, will we be equipping our young people on critical thinking as to one of the esteemed panelists mentioned around AI thinking? Will they be able to differentiate? There'll be so much digital content that will be coming their way in the next 5-10 years. Will they have this critical thinking to differentiate the AI biases that will be there on the content? Will they be equipped to differentiate, okay, this is how this is working and this is how we need to evolve eventually? Second one, obviously, is data privacy related aspects. Like, will they be aware around that this is where I'm sending across a lot of my data and how that data will be evolved? And the third aspect that obviously is awareness. I mean, there are already so many tools which can make you a preferred candidate in so many of your job applications, but I don't know how many young people are actually using it. I mean, the dream is that how easily a young person is able to order food via Swiggy, can tomorrow they are able to apply to jobs as easily as that? Can we get that accessibility as faster and as smooth to these young people? Now, to address the specific question that you talked about, the marginalized section. That's a different sector altogether. Just to bring the crowd to the specific reality of marginalized sector, I think CVs, resumes is such a known fact in our generation. When you talk to marginalized people, उन्हें ये भी नहीं पता CV होता क्या. Still is a cost source. आप 50 रुपए जाके photocopy shop में CV बनाते हैं, तब जाके you will bring that CV to your next recruiter who might turn out to be fraudulent. It is a very different informal segment of marginalized segment of jobs, is a very different beast in itself. I mean, to cater to it is a different problem statement altogether. In fact, InfoEdge, with 70-75% market share in the recruitment space, had to bring out a specialist Bharat first platform to cater to these needs. The initial vision was that we want to create a Naukri for this marginalized sector, for this Bharat youth, these first time job seekers. But eventually, after working on it, we've realized the functionalities, the user interface is going to be so different. For example, we talked about CV bhi nahi pata hai ki yaar CV kya hota hai. Then the idea of we incorporated a audio CV. So you tell us how your journey has been in a few microseconds, and we will club it down and create a CV for you. So we'll do these kind of activities for you. For example, jobs, right? I mean, we are privileged to look for jobs in cities. We have the potential to move across to a Delhi, Mumbai and find my dream job next. A lot of these marginalized sector, either are migrants or I'm even talking about women. They would prefer jobs, either work from home jobs or even close to their localities. If you can give me a job which is within 5 kilometer radius of where I put up, that's where I'm more likely to join the job, more likely to stay in that job. So hyperlocal job searches are going to be important in these segments. So when it comes to this marginalized section, again, it just doesn't have to be vernacular. It has to be vernacular first. It doesn't have to be vernacular first. It has to be contextual vernacular also. So for example, what are the local lingos that are used in Maharashtra, in Marathi, for the specific job segments? They have to be included in a job description. And you cannot expect the recruiter to do that. The recruiter will be adept in certain languages, but to translate it across to Marathi, to Bangla, to Kannada, Telugu is going to be via technology also, and a contextual translation. So there's many aspects that involve getting technology to boost job accessibility for the marginalized. So that's just a gist of it. I think more eventually we'll talk about it later. Thanks.
Thanks, Dhruv, for this great insights from InfoEdge, your work at InfoEdge, and also sharing how the job market, especially for young people from marginalized settings, young people whom we are not able to reach out through our day-to-day technology, the problems they face, highlighting the issues young people face with CV generation, or also highlighting how our job JDs, job description should also be vernacular and to the point for young people whom we are hiring hyperlocally. This brings to my next question to our YPATs, to our young people, Maitreyee and Jayanth. So, Maitreyee and Jayanth, what do you think? How can jobs and skilling platforms like Naukri or LinkedIn can leverage young people's skill and their expertise to shape these platforms?
Okay, so I actually think like few weeks before we actually had a discussion on our trade skills, should be focused on trade skills or generic skills. And we actually know that as Dhruv mentioned, like generic skills are getting more important, significant than the trade specific skills. So, and also we are going through an economy which is we call gig economy, where jobs are not permanent. It's as he mentioned, it's as easy as ordering in Swiggy or Zomato. The jobs will be coming as soon as like that. And we will also moving away from conventional jobs to more jobs which are focusing on problem solving and all those things. So we also need, as youth, we'll also need a space where we can access it, or like get trained for that, or develop more generic skills which will be required for that. See, at least we know about trade skills and generic skills. There is a community which are not aware about these things, which are not prepared for these things. And so digital technologies actually will be helping us, will be a way to reach them, to also make them equipped to expand this idea of general skills, or like switching jobs, or making creating enough skills to be equipped with the changes happening around. So I'm actually optimistic about how technology is going, but we also need to be little critical about what's happening around, because when it happens, it has to be again, it has to be inclusive, and it should be for all. And we also have an AA agenda which India put forward, which says AA for all. So it has to be like that. So I imagine a space, digital space like that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think Gen Z has been described as the toolbox generation or the soft skills generation. So they don't want to work for one particular job title, but they would rather have the skills to do lots of jobs, because again, the attention span, the opinionated, all of it comes together. And this is still in metro cities where it's easy to get access to lots of jobs, and we have lots of different types of jobs coming up. But our Passport to Earning program, actually with YuWaah, I got a chance to speak to a lot of girls who actually did take a few of the digital literacy or financial literacy courses. Now, these were girls who had tech available at home, but what they did was they went back to their communities and taught girls who didn't have that tech. But they realized that a lot of those courses, again, they were generalized and they had to make, small tweaks here and there to appeal to maybe the financial habits of that particular community, digital literacy of one particular community. Girls may be not allowed to go out. Some don't have banks around. They need people to help them fill forms. So it's the smaller nitty-gritties. Until we deal with those, jobs are like way far off. So I think as Jayanth mentioned, we had a conversation a few weeks ago about generic versus trade skills. And it was also that a lot of young people want jobs and a lot of companies also want to hire. So where is the gap? Clearly, there is some big gap. And I think we need that space where we can maybe talk to young people to understand that you do want to work. So how do we maybe find a common ground to come up with jobs that you can also do and we also have the space for?
Thanks, Jayanth and Maitreyee, for highlighting the gap which is existing with various platforms and with various companies when they are hiring or when they are onboarding young people to understand what they need and how can we bridge this gap by actually speaking to young people and also by maybe providing them with some skills which can equip them to maybe also not just provide them with job opportunities, but also ensure their holistic growing and their holistic empowerment. Moving on, I have a question open to all the panelists. And I think as for the timer, we just have 2 minutes left. I'm being mindful because I don't want to eat up anyone's evening. So my last question, which is open to all the panelists, is since like in this discussion, we have discussed about how we can reimagine young, digital platform for young people and with young people. What do you think our digital ecosystem and our digital world will look like in upcoming 10 years? And how will it be different from today's world? What role young people will be taking up in that world, which is 10 years from now? So over to anyone who would like to say. I think Maanvi is looking at me. So yeah.
I was thinking the answer to that question also because 10 years seems a fairly long time. I think as far as digital systems is concerned, it's very much a young person's game. I feel we see that increasingly also at YuWaah with the way that we track trends, with the way that we see young people engaging with platforms. I'd like to give one example of our work, which I think sort of also highlights how young people can use digital platforms to bring about nuances that otherwise would have been missed. We did a campaign with the US consulate on mis and disinformation, actually, which looked at, and one of the aspects that it looked at was also what Dhruv was mentioning about how to figure out and what are the tools with which you can use to try and screen misinformation, specifically now that we have so much of AI-generated content. And a part of that fellowship was, we selected 10 young people from across India, and a part of that fellowship was that each of the 10 people involved in the fellowship were required to start a community project on mis and disinformation. And just the breadth of the issues that they picked, like one person said that I want to look at mis and disinformation through the lens of caste. Another young person said that I want to look at it through the lens of queer rights. Now, these were not intersections that we had thought of as a media organization or as someone doing social impact partnerships before we started the campaign. But that nuance came from young people who on ground felt that this was something that was happening in their community and wanted to create a project that would generate that kind of community impact. So I feel as far as the future is concerned, it very much is coming from young people, whether it is in terms of the ways that they are interacting with digital platforms, whether it is what issues they think is relevant for them to amplify and talk about. And also I feel like in terms of the changing trends. So for me, I think, yeah, the platforms are going to be what the young people make them to be.
So 10 years from now, the way I feel, based on what I've been observing, now you combine the energy of youth with just some time back we saw the keynote about new education policy and the freedom that it brings, which is way different from the educational system and the ecosystem in which I would say all of us were brought up, right? So I see a society which would be way different in the way it is functioning, the way more inclusive society, because again, this generation do not recognize those boundary and they are rebel enough to break the boundaries. Right, so way more inclusive society which is technology driven and where the norms would also be different than the current norms or social norms that we are following, mainly because of the ability of this generation to question the norms and not following those norms blindly. So I think that would have a lot of impact.
I think quickly, it'll be a very challenging times for the businesses to create products for the next generation. They'll be ruthless with you, obviously rewarding. They will have their belief systems, very strong belief systems. Your product should maintain that fine line of delivering value and also creating that right impact in the society. And also I feel as and when AI gets integrated more with application and more the usage by the young people, the products get sharpened with the users because it'll keep learning as to what these young people want. So the idea becomes that people who are able to crack this algorithm better while creating the right impact for the right causes will be for the win when it comes to the next 10 years, please.
Okay, so 10 years from now, I realize like I no longer be a youth, but it's actually to see as an, I'm also a teacher, so to see from a teacher's perspective, it's actually good. I mean, we usually say that, usually in a classroom, when students make sound, we say, you come and teach. But it's going to be reality. Students will be teaching, and if you have any confusions or, I teach physics. So imagine if a student have a question to ask. The student itself can come and say, okay, we can create a simulation and let's try that. So there is more autonomy for them, more freedom for them, and in terms of learning and also in terms of jobs they choose, and also they themselves being entrepreneurs or like creating a job. And also creating their own space. I mean, we are now imagining, and that will be reality for them. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
One last thing. So if I think about technology even 10 years ago, and I was relatively very young, we have these internal biases as well. For example, we would use the laptop for more legitimate decisions that we have to make. So you would book a ticket on the laptop and then soon you would book it on your mobile, but still it feels extremely strange to maybe apply for a job on your phone. You feel more comfortable if you have a computer because it feels more legitimate. So I feel like maybe in the next 10 years, our way of using our phones would obviously become extremely different. And as he mentioned that if we have a like as easy as food delivery is, if we could apply for jobs, I think 10 years from now, the younger generation would be extremely, they'd be savvy in a way that even we wouldn't be able to keep up with them.
Okay, thanks everyone for sharing your visions of 10 years from now, how our society and our digital world will look like with young people. This brings me to end of the discussion, but before we end, I would also like to open for the audience. If you have any question, I think we can take one question. So if anyone has any question for the panelists, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much for wonderful discussion. It is just observation that what I found that this discussion was very urban centric for that say. And when we talk about the digital divide, urban and rural divide is we cannot forget. So rural youths sometimes feel that there is also fear of adopting new technology. As sir also rightly mentioned that in my village I see that even people don't know how to make a CV, and they go to just any shop, and that is net cafe, and pay 50 rupees and make a CV. So that is a reality. We cannot forget that. So while navigating this challenge, so how do you look at it? A person who has a fear, who don't know how to integrate this technology, and we are opening a new world of lot of opportunities where we have lot of tools, but still basic knowledge and awareness is lacking. So how do you look at this? What a rural guy should do to navigate this challenge? Thank you.
Yes, the digital divide is very much realistic. Another challenge my observation is also about the opportunities that are being presented to the youth. Obviously, like we're talking about the marginalized sector youth and all, right? So there, yes, we need to acknowledge these challenges, and also some action need to be taken on the positive side or making some difference, say for example, from Capgemini side, we run multiple initiatives, and we cater to multiple levels as well. Say, for example, there are initiatives about digital citizenship and getting them initiated where, for example, we look at, driving the STEM-related jab or labs or this Atal incubation things into rural area schools where we introduce and try to expose the students to the upcoming new technologies and things, right? So it is about bringing them into more formalized sector through knowledge or exposure towards technology. Second part is, it is not sufficient to have them, just exposure. You also need to give them opportunity. So on that front also, our teams run initiatives around, bringing them the digital academy where we train these youths and try to bring them into, now our sector is IT sector, so we try to bring them into IT sector, and so far, if I remember correctly, we have around 4,000 to 5,000 such people who were absorbed by Capgemini itself, and I'm sure other organizations would have also absorbed them into their workforce. And I fortunately had opportunity to work with some of those people who came from marginalized sector and later on absorbed. And I did not find any major difference into attitude, into the learnability of those young professionals and their ability to deliver. All they needed was opportunity, and I think all of us who are sitting around are trying to make that difference through whatever initiative we all are running, whether it is about creating a job portal for them which will help them come into a way, or whether about going to different areas and talking to them and teaching them about etiquettes or other aspects of living, right? So yes, all of us are trying to make difference through our own ways, initiatives, right? So it's not that we are not doing it, it's being done, but yes, lot more can be done on the front.
I'd also like to add that you're very right that there is very much a digital divide, but that digital divide also has other intersections of caste and gender. So say, for example, if in a family there is a mobile phone that exists, so many studies have shown that that mobile phone would only either be with the father or with the elder brother. So the women in the family don't have access to that mobile phone. If you add in a different layer of caste, then it becomes mobile penetration in a family. The statistics for that look even worse. So I feel like when we're looking also at this challenge about how do we talk to say, for example, younger people or a young Dalit woman who is then looking for a job, or a young woman in a family, in a rural family who is looking for a job, then we need to also take into account these contexts as well, right? So when Dhruv is talking about building a Bharat First job seekers platform, a lot of the times, at least in the work that we have done at YuWaah, we realize that while the intent is there, there is very much a gap between that initiative reaching a person that they want, because there are these other layers of sadly social discrimination and prejudices that we still haven't been able to overcome. It's the same thing with AI. So much of AI we are now seeing is reproducing these misogynistic stereotypes, or is reproducing these understandings of gender and caste, right? So it just takes a little bit of critical thinking on the consumer end also to say, hey, this works, but what about this? So it's not so much an answer to the question, but just a little bit more of a making the challenge a little bit more complex.
Thanks. I mean, you're right. We did not cover that rural aspect a lot, but then it's such a big aspect that there has to be a separate seminar only on rural aspect and accessibility itself. It's such a huge topic. Once you go down, there's so many layers, socio-economic, caste-based, that you have to layer by layer come down to the root causes of it. But to quickly answer your question, a lot of the platforms are job discovery platforms. They're not job creators. The problem lies that naturally in India, there's such a skewness of jobs being available in these top 20, 30, 40 cities that eventually a person has to move out of their spaces to find jobs. Second major problem that comes across is trust, that we still haven't been able to establish that trust. Okay, हाँ online job mil sakti hai. They're so referral heavy. Unless somebody refers me, I will not be even leaving my town to go to that job unless tells me कि हाँ यार मामा का बेटा वहाँ पे रहता है. तब तक तो मैं नहीं जाऊँगा. So that trust. And third, something that we've been trying to capture is unity. See, I can't change a lot of mega trends, but one thing that is for sure is even in rural spaces, they've started using social media a lot. So can my job hunt platform use these features which they're used to? For example, endless swipes of video job descriptions, right? And they hear that out, okay, what is the job's requirement? And I can swipe right or swipe left. Things that they're used to doing, endless swiping, YouTube shorts, etc. So we can use these behaviors that have already been inculcated and then create products which can utilize or improve on these and outcomes like jobs, for instance. So yes, we can actually pick it up, a longer discussion there. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all our panelists, and thank you for the audience also, and thank you for that question. I think to sum this discussion up, I would like to also highlight the importance to understand that young people are not a homogeneous group. They are a heterogeneous group. And what our panelists also wonderfully highlighted at the audience question as well was that their lives are also getting impacted by various intersectionalities and various identities they carry, which can be based on their gender identity, caste, the geography they belong to, so on and so forth. To create a world which is truly digital and which is truly anchored and run by, co-led by, and co-created by young people, it's important to also understand these nuances and their different settings, their different lived experiences, where they come from, and how can we integrate them into our digital reality to ensure that they are truly at the fingertips of young people, of everyone. Thank you everyone again, and I would like to end this by just saying that after this discussion and after also hearing from our young people and from our panelists who are seasoned professional at various organizations and not so young as Maanvi is saying, panelists, about how their organizations are also bringing changes to ensure young people as are co-creators of their platforms, and they are driving the change. So I think I'm hopeful for a world where we can see more and more inclusion of young people across these platforms in future as well, and not just these platforms but different platforms, entertainment platforms, or maybe knowledge-based platforms as well. Thank you very much everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Mansa. From inclusion to innovation, you've left us with a very powerful message, no? That the future belongs to those who are willing to shape it, isn't it? Such a powerful message. Big round of applause for them, everybody. Thank you so much. I'd like to please call upon Ms. Neha Party to come on stage and help us felicitate our panelists. Arzoo. I made a mistake there, didn't I? You're Arzoo, aren't you? I love your name, it's beautiful. Yes, please. Can we please start with felicitating Arzoo? Thank you so much, Arzoo, for moderating the panel. Next, could we please felicitate Maanvi? Thank you. Could we please felicitate Maitreyee? Thank you, Jayanth, for joining the panel. Thank you, Mr. Yadav, for being on the panel. We appreciate your time. Thank you, Mr. Raut, for taking time out to be a part of our panel. Thank you so much. Could we please take a group picture? Neha, hang on. You can come. Be a part of the group picture.